Hi, my name is Jailene Cisneros. Welcome to my book talk. A famous quote by George Santayana would be, "Those who cannot remember their past are condemned to repeat it." This quote revolved around my head a lot while I read this book. What book is it that we're talking about today? The book is the novel The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I believe this quote rotates greatly around this story because if Santiago, the protagonist of the story, had not incorporated what he had learned prior to into his current experiences, he wouldn't have been able to reach his personal legend or even reach the goal of finding the treasure in Egypt. Okay, so The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho is a fiction novel that allows us to explore fiction in multiple ways, both in adventure and spiritually. This is the story of Santiago, a shepherd boy who begins a journey from Spain to Egypt, across the desert to find his treasure. Of course, this isn't an easy journey for him. During this trip, he encounters many obstacles, but he also meets many people along the way that, in one way or another, teach him something valuable. For example, the idea that following your dream is always worth it in the end, listening to your heart, and recognizing the signs that the world gives you. The story seems to be a philosophical novel while also adventurous, but focuses on the relatable topic of following one's dreams. In The Alchemist, the setting changes multiple times, which I believe is important to the story. Santiago starts off in Spain, which is his homeland, his comfort. Then you're taken through the journey from Spain to Africa, through the desert, down to the oasis, then to Egypt, where he finally finds his treasure. Through this journey, Santiago meets multiple people, all of whom are also extremely important to this novel. Santiago, the protagonist, the main character, is trying to find the treasure. In this story, you also have the gypsy, the king of Salem, the baker, the crystal merchant, the boy he met in Africa who stole all his money, the Englishman, Fatima, the alchemist, and the tribal chiefs in the oasis. The Alchemist is a novel that leads us through this journey with Santiago, a young shepherd boy from Spain who has a dream that he finds a treasure and in the Egypt pyramids, and he decides to pursue it. In this story, Santiago pursues this dream, but throughout the way, he encounters many obstacles. Throughout these obstacles, Santiago decides not to give up and instead learn from everything that he's going through. During this journey, Santiago also meets many people, all of whom he learns important things from. Santiago uses all this knowledge that he builds in order to be able to find his personal legend. The main conflict in The Alchemist is the struggle Santiago has to go through both physically and mentally in order to find his personal legend. Santiago aims to find his true purpose in life, but of course, he deals with many obstacles along the way. This novel revolves around many themes, many of which I believe are really relatable, especially for a lot of us as college students. Um, we have the following of personal desires, being able to find out who we are, and learning with life's signs. In the story, many characters do learn lessons, not just Santiago. Either Santiago learns something from somebody along the way, or somebody that meets Santiago ends up learning something from him, or vice versa. Our main character, of course, is Santiago, who is your protagonist. He's a shepherd boy from Spain who wanted to find his treasure and his true worth. In page 5, you do have a section that reads, "But ever since he had been a child, he wanted to know the world, and this was much more important to him than knowing God and learning about man's sin." One afternoon, on his visit to his family, he summoned up the courage to tell his father that he didn't want to be a priest. This section here lets us know that Santiago has more interest in what he wants rather than what's built for him. We also have the King of Salem and the Baker. The king of Salem was an important character because he was the one who convinced Santiago to start pursuing his personal legend. Along with the king comes the baker, as he used him as an example as to why Santiago shouldn't quit, even if he's comfortable in the position he's currently in. In page 16, we read, the old man pointed to a baker standing in his shop window at the corner of the plaza. When he was a child, the man wanted to travel too, but he decided first to buy his bakery and put some money aside. When he's an old man, he's going to spend a month in Africa. He never realized that people are capable at any time of their lives of doing what they dream of. And then it cuts off and it goes down to, but bakers are more important people than shepherds. Bakers have homes, while shepherds sleep out in the open. Parents would rather see their children marry bakers than shepherds. And this is a point where Santiago does get a little bit discouraged because he's facing one of his first obstacles. At this point, he realizes that he would have to leave the merchant's daughter in order for him to follow his dreams. When Santiago starts his journey to Africa, he meets a boy who ends up stealing all of his money. This boy, I believe, is important into the story because it starts introducing the obstacles that Santiago will face in order to finally reach his personal legend. Luckily for Santiago, Santiago does not give up. He decides to actually just learn from his mistakes. And we see that in page 30 when he decides to continue. And he says, but this time I'll be smarter, the boy thought, removing them from the pouch so he could put them back in his pocket. This is a port town, and the only truthful thing his friend has told him was that the port towns are full of thieves. So the story slowly starts to introduce more and more characters. Next, we get the crystal merchant. He gives Santiago a job for food and shelter. I believe that the crystal merchant is in the story to show that small steps are important too when trying to reach a goal. It took Santiago 11 months and 9 days to save enough money to continue his journey after his money was stolen. But Santiago also helped the merchant and allowed him to see that change was good. So in between page 45 and 46, we see that Santiago is finally ready to move on after this long journey of 11 months, saving his money in order to be able to continue after his money was stolen. So he decides to finally take on to his next step, and the story reads, it was a bundle of money, enough to buy himself 120 sheep, a return ticket, and a license to import products from Africa into his country. And then it cuts to, you have helped me. The man continued to prepare his tea, saying nothing. Like I said, the characters in the story help each other move forward. And this is an example of the crystal merchant and Santiago helping each other. We move on to the Englishman. The Englishman is a part of the story to teach Santiago that even though book knowledge is important, practical wisdom and experiencing and listening to your heart are also just as valuable. Knowledge must be paired with action and with the understanding in order to be able to fulfill one's personal legend in this novel. So in page 89, this is a conversation that Santiago has with the alchemist. It reads, it's not I the one spoke about. It's the other foreigner, the Englishman. He's the one that's looking for you. The alchemist states, he has other things to do first, but he's on the right track. He has begun to understand the desert. So basically here they're saying that you are also having to understand what the wind speaks, what your heart speaks, in order to be able to move forward and reach your goal. And then we move forward on to Fatima. Fatima leads Santiago to make another hard decision. He falls in love with Fatima, and now he's scared of leaving her. So Fatima teaches Santiago that when something is meant to be, it will happen. Fatima does not keep Santiago from looking for his personal legend. In fact, she encourages it. So Santiago has another difficult decision to make. In page 92, we have yet another conversation between the alchemist and Santiago, which begins to continue his search for the treasure meant that he had to abandon Fatima. I'm going to guide you across the desert, the alchemist said. I want to stay at the oasis, the boy answered. I've found Fatima, and as far as I'm concerned, that's worth more than any treasure. Fatima is woman of the desert, said the alchemist. She knows that men have to go away in order to return, and she already has her treasure. It's you. Now she expects that you will find what it is that you're looking for. Basically, it's stating that Fatima is not to keep Santiago back from his dreams. She basically wants him to go ahead and pursue them in order for both of them to be happy. Finally, we have two more characters that are very important to the story. We have the tribal chief of the Oasis and the alchemist. Of course, the alchemist. The alchemist taught Santiago to understand deeper spiritual truths and the reasoning of his quest. So he taught him to listen to his heart and to everything in the world that connected in order to be able to live in the present moment. He taught him that he would have to sacrifice some things in order to be able to reach his personal legend. In the story on page 121, you do read, thank you, said the boy. You taught me the language of the world. And the alchemist responds stating, I only invoked what you already knew. So basically, the boy already had basic understanding of everything that he was going through in order to reach his personal legend, but he needed to have deeper understanding. He needed to be able to listen to his heart. He needed to be able to live in the moment, and he needed to be able to sense what's around him, to be able to tell what the world was trying to tell him within the signs that were given to him. All of the characters that Santiago met in his story and the situations that he was put through were put in place in order for him to be made stronger and for him to build knowledge and finally be able to reach the point he wanted to be in, which was to find his personal legend and his treasure. One of the most important things in this story is that even though Santiago went through all these obstacles, Santiago never forgot what he learned in the past, and he used what he learned in order to move forward. In page 126, we read, the boy fell to his knees and wept. He thanked God for making him believe in his personal legend and for leading him to meet a king, a merchant, an Englishman, and an alchemist. And above all, for his having met a woman of the desert who told him that love would never keep a man from his personal legend. I believe this is an amazing story and an amazing read for people like me, a college student that is working hard to achieve a goal. Similar to Santiago, we all meet people throughout our journey of graduating and reaching this goal and this career that we long for. We also face many obstacles, but we can't give up on it if we want to reach our final goal and not just stick to where we feel comfortable. People and obstacles that we meet throughout the way are a necessity for us to build character and to become better than we ever even expected to.